Okay, let's do the Patriots news, guys. Breaking news. The New England Patriots have signed a running back to replace Damien Harris and backup Ramondre Stevenson. His name is James Robinson. Robinson signs a 2-year deal worth up to $8 million with your New England Patriots. So after signing Juju Smith Schuster, which we're going to get to, the Patriots have been even more active on the offensive front. And I view this signing as a veteran, all-around running back who can back up Ramondre Stevenson and give you someone a little similar to Stevenson in some ways, but different in other ways. Actually kind of similar to Damien Harris, but the one thing I think James Robinson gives you over Damien Harris is his receiving capabilities that he's proven as a lead ball carrier throughout his career, producing 49 catches in his rookie season with Jacksonville, 31 in his second season. Last year was his third year coming off of significant injury. He played for 2 teams, Jacksonville and the Jets. So the Patriots had a good look at him, perhaps with the Jets. He might not be the same player he was as a rookie, though. There is questions about that due to his injury, but he's still really young. I think he's only 25, maybe 24 years old. He's 24 as of now. He turns 25 in August. So there's a lot of time for him to bounce back from those injuries, but he is a former 240 carry, 1,000-yard running back for 7 touchdowns and 49 catches in his rookie year. He was a bell cow back for Jacksonville. So he's proven that he can be a bell cow back on another team. He will probably not be asked to be that with the New England Patriots, at least if Stevenson is in the backfield. When Stevenson does go down with an injury, which is undoubtedly going to happen for a game or 2 throughout a season, he can step in and carry the load for the Patriots, which is exciting because I think even with Damien Harris, he wasn't a guy that could carry the load. He wasn't a 3-down running back. He was a good ball carrier, but he wasn't a guy that could also play on 3rd down, could also pass protect, could also run routes out of the backfield, could also be effective in the screen game. That's the area where Damien Harris was lacking. James Robinson can do all of those things that Stevenson can do. He's not as electric, he's not as good, but he can do it. So that is good. And I think when you view a guy like David Montgomery, right, and James Robinson, I think I would say they're similar players. James Robinson went for significantly less. They're also similar age, right? I think they're both good in their power game. They're both good in short yardage. David Montgomery's maybe had more of a proven track record. He's had less injuries to deal with. But David Montgomery went for a significant contract. James Robinson goes for a 2-year, $8 million, and that's probably like up to $8 million with incentives. That's probably a lot less, but I mean, I would say they're similar because they're not explosive, but they win after contact. They win by fighting through contact, and they both have good vision in like short yardage situations. James Robinson's a very good short yardage running back. That's one of the things that I really like about him. So, yeah, that's the first move for the Patriots. James Robinson coming out of nowhere. I didn't really see the Patriots going veteran running back this offseason, but seeing that Damien Harris is going to go somewhere else, and we knew that based on his comments on Twitter recently, I really do like the addition of James Robinson, especially at only 25 years old, as the primary backup and insurance option for Ramondre Stevenson. The big move of the day, though. I mean, let's not kid around. The big move of the day is the New England Patriots signing Corvette, TikTok boy, Super Bowl champion, celebrity wide receiver, Ju Ju Smith Schuster. The Patriots have replaced Jakobi Meyers in a big way with a big name. That name is Juju Smith Schuster. Juju is still only 26 years old. He gets a 3-year, $33 million contract with, I believe, 16 of that guaranteed. That is less guaranteed money than Jakobi Meyers, who got $21 million guaranteed. Both players got the identical term and identical money per year on average, $11 million, but both contracts are slightly different in terms of the structure and in terms of the incentives. Juju's is more incentivized. Jakobi's is more guaranteed. But Jakobi's might be more year to year. There's a lot of complicated aspects to that. But breaking down Jakobi for Juju, because that's what it's all about here, because they're both very similar role players. They're both number 2 wide receivers in the NFL. I think the Patriots upgraded here. Even though Juju has not played in the Patriots system before, and even though he has never played with Mac Jones before, I am going out on a limb and saying that the Patriots upgraded. And the reason I believe they upgraded is because Juju is better in the areas where I felt Jakobi was limited. Jakobi was a great possession receiver. Jakobi had very reliable hands. Jakobi, I will say this, a more reliable personality off of the field, and maybe won't rub some fans the wrong way like Juju may do in terms of, I wouldn't say his antics, because that's not what they are, but he is very new school. He is not an old school personality. So the way that fits into New England, it brings an exciting person to the New England Patriots in a way that Gronk was exciting for the Patriots. Juju is very much that same way. Kind of goofy, kind of out there, kind of different. That is Juju Smith Schuster. Okay, so New England was lacking a lot of personality on their offense. They get that with Juju. Jakobi was very much, head down, work hard, football. You do worry a little bit about Juju post Super Bowl win. Will he have the same effort, the same motivation to go out there, given that he just had a 3-year contract? But Patriots are smart. They made it very incentivized. That was very smart. Now, why do I think he's an upgrade? Because he's one of the best yards after catch receivers in the NFL. Last season, he was second in the NFL in yards per catch after the catch, only behind Deebo Samuel, who's recognized as basically a running back when he gets the football. Juju was second in that category. Jakobi Meyers is not good after the catch. He catches the ball, and that's it. The play is over. Nothing else happens. Juju Smith Schuster is a wild card after the catch. And mostly, it's because he is very strong. He has phenomenal balance. And he's very powerful for a receiver. I was impressed with Juju's ability to play within Kansas City and bounce back. Juju was coming off of an injury. He was on a 1-year prove-it deal. And he goes to a team that's playing for a Super Bowl, and he makes a ton of big plays in big games. He makes the marquee holding call where he beats James Bradbury on a whip route from the slot in order to get open. That causes the tug, and Juju and the Chiefs get the first down. Juju, I do feel like, is more explosive in his cuts. I think he has more agility to him for a big man. That is tough to defend, because I think what makes Juju a very good receiver is that he's got good agility on top of having good size. So it's hard to both contain his lateral ability and his size, because he can win and catch the ball, over your head, or he can win through his route running. He's not the most deep speed type of guy, but that's not what he's going to be asked to do. Juju's going to be a big slot receiver for this team. He's going to resume the Jakobi Meyers role, But what you would expect out of that role is more yards after catch, more electrifying ability when he gets the football, and then I would say pretty even route running, pretty even separation abilities. But then on top of that, he is a very good blocker as well, and he plays with an edge to him. I've seen numerous times where he's like stiff-armed a player in open space. He's knocked a guy down through his blocking. He does play with a chip and an edge despite, what you would think given his off the field. But Juju does play with a nastiness to him on the field. He's almost a different person. And he is capable of going over the middle and taking big shots. And that's because he's a bigger guy and he's got some weight to him and like a lower body to him. If you've ever seen him, he's got a lower body to him where he can take a hit across the middle and survive game after game. So Ju Ju Smith Schuster, just talking about the statistics. I actually tweeted it out earlier today. The statistical comparison between the two players. Juju, per 17 games through his first few years in comparison to Jakobi Meyers, he has 86 catches compared to Jakobi's 62, 1,030 yards compared to Meyers' 722, and 6 touchdowns per year compared to Meyers' 1 touchdown per year, which was a really big problem with Jakobi. He just didn't produce a lot of touchdowns, which a lot of people, especially old school NFL heads, would say, those touchdowns are more important than anything else. But, just diving a little bit deeper, he is still only, like I said, he is only 26. He's 6'1", 215 according to Pro Football Reference. He looks bigger than that to me. He was drafted in the second round of the 2017 draft. Jakobi, another thing there, I think just athletically, they're two different specimens, right? Jakobi was not, great. He's not a great player because of his athleticism. He's a great player because of his brain and because of his savviness. Juju is athletically, he was drafted in the second round for a reason out of USC. Jakobi was undrafted. There's a reason for that. When you look at their careers, Juju is an effective rookie player with 917 yards, playing with Antonio Brown at the time in 2017 as a 21-year-old, right? And he had 917 yards and 7 touchdowns. Then in year 2, he has a massive leap. Best year of his career, 111 catches, 1,400 yards, and 7 touchdowns. After that, he has a dip at 23. In only 12 games, though, he does put up 42 catches for 552 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then he gets to old Ben Roethlisberger the last couple of years where he plays, he gets targeted underneath, spammed basically, 97 catches, 831 yards, 9 touchdowns. That's when Ben couldn't throw the ball down the field, and he was really forcing the ball to Juju for 97 catches on that season. So he's put up big catch totals. I mean, he's had 111 one year, 97 another, 78 last year with Patrick Mahomes as the number 2 target, 933 yards last year, almost 1,000 and 3 touchdowns. So the guy's been more productive than Jakobi. He's been productive basically every year he's been healthy. And I think he'll be productive in New England. I think Bill O'Brien will use him well, but expect him to play in the slot. Those are my thoughts on Juju, man. I'm excited, but I will say this. He is not a number 1 receiver. He is a very good number 2. He is a guy that as a number 2 really does produce. Every time he's been a number 2 receiver, he has been a very good player. Basically every time he's a number 2, he puts up 900 yards plus or more, right? That's been his career. But when he's a number 1, when teams can really shift coverage towards him, double team him, focus attention on him, put the number 1 guy on him, he isn't as good. Okay, but as a number 2, he is a very good player. So that's kind of how I feel about Juju. I'm sad to see Jakobi leave, but I did feel we needed an upgrade. We did need a more athletic guy. I think Juju gives us that. And he's still young, so that's great. Oh, yeah. On top of that, Apollo says we're paying him wide receiver 2 money. That's a great point. We are paying Juju wide receiver 2 money. Just so everybody understands that. He is basically getting the same contract as Jakobi. He's actually getting less guaranteed. So we kind of stole him, in my opinion. I think this is a little bit of a steal, considering he's in his prime right now. He's 26 years old. From all the reports, the Patriots actually view him as an ascending talent. So that's great to hear. And he just had the tutelage of Andy Reid. So he probably learned a lot in Kansas City, and he's going to take that to New England and probably learn some stuff from Bill O'Brien as well that can kind of craft and mold his game. So he's definitely a guy, like when you compare him to Jacoby, right? Jacoby to me is like a finished product. Like because of his athleticism, he'll never be better than he is right now. Still meaning that he's going to be a good player, but there's that ceiling that I think is capped with him. Juju has a higher ceiling. We've seen it in his career. He's had 1,400 yards, right? Especially if you have a great receiver on top on the depth chart. So looking at Riley Reiff as an offensive lineman that New England signed earlier today, he has played in the NFL for many years. He was drafted in 2012, okay? That was 10 years ago, guys. I think Tessa was probably 3 years old. He last year played for Chicago. He played for Detroit for many years, Minnesota for many years. He played for Cincinnati when they went to the Super Bowl. He started 12 games for Joe Burrow in that offense. Last year, he started basically his entire career. So when you look at his career numbers, he did only start 10 games last year for Chicago at 34 years old, which was 55% of the snaps. But before that, he played 92% for the Bengals, 100% for Minnesota, 90, 95, 96, 98, 100, 92, 97. So he's pretty much started every year. He's been a starting average offensive lineman in his career. That's pretty much what he is a starting average offensive lineman, at least, before last year, where I don't know if it was injuries or what it was for him. But just checking PFF in terms of his grades, he was graded as the 51st tackle in the NFL. He had the 48th best pass blocking grade. So if you do the math there's 32 starting tackles. He basically grades, or 32 on one side, 32 on the other. He's a little bit in that average area. And that's pretty much where he's ranked his whole career. He's been better at other times. In 2014, 2015, that was kind of his prime. He ranked in the top 15. But after that, from 2018 on, 26th, 37th, 38th, 49th, 51st. So he's had a little bit of a decline. But part of that's also playing for Chicago, where Chicago's kind of terrible, offensive line-wise. Justin Fields kind of holds on the ball too long. There is some reason for optimism that he actually could be better this year than last year. I'm not certain that he'll start. I'm not certain that what he'll do exactly, but I know what he is, which is an average starting lineman that gives us a floor for the right tackle or left tackle position because he's played both. I would say he's a better right tackle from what I've seen than left tackle, but he can play either one. He's had a lot of experience in different systems. And he gives us a floor at the position that just in case we miss out on maybe a first round tackle or maybe we do something. I don't know exactly what their plan is, but we've brought in a lot of different offensive linemen. We re-signed Yodny Kajust, or Kajust, depending on how you pronounce his name. Trent Brown is our left tackle for now, but there's always the possibility they cut him given his contract. And then they also signed Calvin Anderson, who has some upside, but is unproven. Riley Reiff's kind of the opposite. He has a floor, but he's pretty much what he is at this point. So those are my thoughts on the Patriots moves. Matthew says, is Juju number one? I would say no. So as I broke down his career and what I think of him, I think he's a good number two. He's a good number two with some upside that he can put up number one numbers, but it's more because he is the number two. So if you look at his career, he was basically a number two receiver who's put up some number one numbers when he's had Antonio Brown, supporting him, right? So Antonio Brown was there with the Steelers, or Travis Kelce was there with the Chiefs. There's no coincidence that Juju was better in those situations. But I do think he's an upgrade over Jacoby Myers, as I expressed, because I think he's athletically better. He's better after the catch. He's more explosive, etc. So I think he is a good number two, but I think they still need to look for a number one, in my opinion. Whether that comes, they could go in a variety of different ways. They could trade for somebody. Maybe it's D-Hop. Maybe it's Cooks. Maybe it's somebody we're not aware of. It's not going to be Jerry Jeudy because they play the same position. It's not going to be Jerry Jeudy. Odell Beckham would be, I think, the best, in my opinion, Odell would be the best decision. And the reason I say that is because I think he'll be the cheapest. And I think you don't have to trade for him. So he's on the open market. And maybe he's the riskiest, but I think he is a perimeter receiver that I think would fit the offense very well. And he would give him another, at the very least, high-end number 2 quality, but he would ask the other team to play him as a number 1, which would open up everyone else more. So Odell to me would be the wisest because you don't have to give up assets for him. But they could go first round receiver too. So that's another possibility where that's maybe a number 1 too. So, and they're drafting in the mid first round. So you're guaranteed to get one of the top receivers drafted this year. Usually when they draft a receiver, they're drafting them in the 2nd or 3rd or 4th round, or, you know, like late first was N'Keal Harry. So there's still some question there. Even though they could have picked 5 or 7 different receivers that were better than him that year, but they didn't. But that's just my opinion. Devontae Parker and a second enough for D-Hop. I'm not sure what's going on with Parker. My thing right now would be he probably stays because he's only making, from what I understand, $6 million this year. So that's not crazy. And I think Devontae Parker would be a really good number 3. But that also comes into question, like his contract is movable. You also have Kendrick Bourne. You also have Tyquan Thornton. So Parker, out of all of these guys on the roster right now, if you are going to sign Odell or you're going to trade for somebody, something like that, then Parker is definitely the most movable. I would say that a second and Parker would be too much. I think that's too much to offer for D-Hop. Personally, I think I'd probably offer Parker in the 3rd, honestly. I think because of the age and because of the contract, I think D-Hop's a top 10 receiver without a doubt, but there is risk there moving forward in his career because of his age. So and because of when you look at the rest of the landscape of NFL players, what they're going for right now, I mean, Darren Waller went for a 3rd. Some of these guys, like Cooper went for a 5th last year or whatever he went for. Like, we've seen some really good players, receivers, go for less. Now, if it were to be a 2nd, I wouldn't be mad about that. I'd be like, okay, yeah, cool. I'm cool with that. I wouldn't be mad, but I would be maybe a little bit surprised just given the landscape of everything else going on.